On today's primetime local news, one man is dead and two RCMP officers are in hospital after a police-involved shooting this weekend. And funding for beds, over $2 million for the government given to Thorpe Recovery Center.
We know that there is certainly a remaining crisis in our province, and we've been wanting to help.
And edibles flying off the shelves, how a local cannabis store is trying to keep up with the demands. Plus, Co-op kicks off their 10th year Kindness Wins campaign.
Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
The Alberta Serious Incident Response Team is investigating an incident that occurred in Lloydminster yesterday, where RCMP officers fired their weapons twice, leaving one man dead. Two RCMP members were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. During the stop of a suspected stolen vehicle around 1 p.m., an altercation broke out, resulting in an officer firing their gun. The vehicle was able to flee, and after an hour of pursuit, another RCMP officer fired their gun. According to the release, the male driver was deceased and the female passenger was taken into custody without incident. Officers from Lloydminster, Kitscoty, Vermilion, Wainwright, Maidstone, and Onion Lake were all involved, along with RCMP's police dog and traffic services. At this time, no law enforcement representatives were available for comment. The government of Alberta announced that the Thorpe Recovery Center is one of 3 addiction treatment spaces in Alberta that will receive funding of more than $1 million. Eric Bay has more on what this means for the center.
Up to $2.21 million yearly over the next 3 years will go to the Thorpe Recovery Center to help fund 574 additional spaces, which will help the Thorpe extend their reach.
We're able to bring in about 1 of every 5 calls that are calling. Our wait lists, are upwards of 3 months and beyond. What we're finding is people tend to kind of drop off after that, so we max out. But definitely the need is there. It's just been basically the difficulty for us to bring additional people in with a funding model that really didn't support opening up more beds.
The funds will also go towards residential addiction treatment and medical detox spaces at the center.
It takes us out of crisis and puts us back into operation. We know that there is certainly a remaining crisis in our province, and we've been wanting to help. So we are very excited that we're able to begin to do that.
Being one of the 3 treatment spaces to receive funding has also allowed the center to raise its profile outside Lloydminster.
We had a lot of people in the room that really didn't know that the Thorpe Recovery Center was here, didn't know what we were doing. We're fairly unique in the sense that we have a medically supported detox, and our clients can now, thanks to the reduction in the barrier of funded beds, move right into a treatment program. So that's really, really significant for us.
The funding is part of the government's promised $140 million towards recovery-oriented addiction and mental health care. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
The Lloydminster Comprehensive High School will be receiving 2 new vans thanks to a generous donation. Diane Gao and her late husband, William Gao, opened a savings account for donations and scholarships a few years ago. In September, she started talking with LPSD about buying new vans in her husband's memory.
So this is through my husband, William Gao. He passed away 2017, and he was a big fan of and coach of teams, and so I thought this would be a good way to have people remember William.
The vans will be used mainly for athletics transportation, but they will also be used to bring kids to field trips and arts events. Safety was a priority when it came to buying the new vans, which will replace the district's aging bus.
Safety is our first consideration, and these vans aren't your typical 15-passenger vans, high wheelbase. We made sure that they had all the safety features necessary. Dual wheels for stability in the back and lane departure, all the warning systems in place to make sure that our kids and staff members can get to and from their activities safely.
One van will be used mostly for sports at Lloydminster Comprehensive High School. A second will be used for events at other schools across the district. Every February, the Co-op Kindness Wins campaign kicks off, but this year is even more special as they are celebrating 10 years of Kindness Wins in the border city. Our Jasmine King has more.
Pink Shirt Day is a national day across Canada, but the Lloydminster District Co-op has made that into their own with Kindness Wednesday.
Lloydminster Co-op is very proud to be the sponsor of Kindness Wins in our community. This year marks the 10th anniversary of that sponsorship, and so far we've raised almost $30,000 through the sale of our pink and black Kindness Wins merchandise, which supports a local charity. We're very, very proud of that.
The money raised from the Kindness Wins campaign goes back into the community in the form of Beyond Borders Circle of Change.
We're super proud to be able to be the recipients of the Kindness Wins campaign, and with that money we use it to fund our grant program in which 15 schools from Lloydminster will receive funds to do their student-led and school-supported Kindness Wins initiatives and projects throughout Lloydminster in the month of February and into March.
With Co-op now celebrating its 10th year of Kindness Wins, Beyond Borders Circle of Change is very thankful they get support through this campaign.
We are beyond grateful from Beyond Borders to receive this money. It really helps us to do all these good things in the community and to try and impact positive change where we can. So it's awesome that they continue to support us. We're very happy about that.
Pink Shirt Day is on Wednesday, February 26th, and Kindness Wins merchandise is already being sold to help raise money.
At our Lloyd Co-op Marketplace, our Neilburg Co-op grocery store, and all 3 Lloyd Co-op gas stations. And from each product, there's money donated towards Beyond Border Circle of Change. So from each t-shirt sold, there's $1 donated, and from each hoodie sold, there's $2 donated.
Jasmine King, Primetime Local News.
And now a look at your evening weather with our Abby St. John.
Thanks, Judy. It's currently minus 17 here in Lloydminster, and we're sitting a little bit cloudy. We did have a nice sunny, clear day today. However, that wind was it made it feel a little bit cooler than it really was. 10-kilometer-per-hour winds coming in from the west, making it feel closer to minus 24 with that wind chill. We have about a 30% chance that we could see some flurries happening early this evening. Minus 16 in Cold Lake and Athabasca, minus 11 in Edmonton, minus 14 in Red Deer and Rocky Mountain House, minus 12 in Edson, minus 9 in Whitecourt, and minus 10 out in Jasper. On the Saskatchewan side, minus 19 in Meadow Lake, minus 20 in Prince Albert, minus 21 in Melfort, minus 17 in Saskatoon, and minus 15 out in North Battleford. Overnight in North Battleford, the clouds will dissipate just a little bit, as there is also a 30% chance of some flurries this evening in North Battleford. Temperature dropping to minus 22, and that wind will be at 7 kilometers per hour coming from the west-southwest and pick up to 11 kilometers per hour tomorrow coming in from the southwest, with a daytime high of minus 8 and a fairly sunny, clear day. In Cold Lake overnight, they will sit fairly clear with a temperature dropping to minus 22, and that wind will be at 7 kilometers per hour coming from the southwest and pick up to 19 kilometers per hour coming in from the same direction tomorrow, with a daytime high of minus 8 and a fairly sunny and clear day as well. Here in Lloydminster overnight, we'll have a little less cloud coverage into overnight and into tomorrow, with the temperature dropping to minus 19, and that wind will be at 11 kilometers per hour coming from the southwest and pick up to 19 kilometers per hour tomorrow coming from the same direction, with a daytime high of minus 8 and a mix of sun and cloud. That minus 8 will feel closer to minus 17 with that wind chill, however, and a low of minus 19. On Wednesday, we have a 55% chance of snow with a high of minus 4, which will feel closer to minus 16 and a low of minus 10. On Thursday, it will be a fairly cloudy day with a high of minus 5 and a low of minus 10. However, with that wind chill, the high will feel closer to minus 10. That is a look at your 3-day forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. In this week's retrospect, our Abby St. John goes back to 2007 to look at 2 stories. The first one on the increase in distracted driving, and the second on the development of workplace depression. Take a look.
In 2007, Lloydminster RCMP started seeing an increase in drivers using their cell phones while behind the wheel.
New research shows the use of cell phones when driving is becoming increasingly dangerous. Lloydminster RCMP are aware of the problem and say if it affects driving, they won't hesitate to ticket offenders.
You're supposed to be driving, paying attention to the roads and to the traffic. So if you're too busy trying to text message someone and drive into someone, obviously you're driving, one, carelessly, or you're driving without due care and attention, which under the provincial statutes of both Alberta and Saskatchewan, there's penalties that can be applied and tickets that can be issued.
But whether this threat has affected cell phone users has yet to be seen. In a study conducted by Polera, 89% of respondents indicated a concern about driver distractions, like talking on a cell phone. But an alarming 60% of drivers said they wouldn't stop using their cell phones while driving.
Also in 2007, the concept of workplace depression was starting to be talked about more.
Depression isn't new, but the awareness of its existence in the workplace is. According to psychologist Leonard Wilhelm, jobs with a high level of stress have a higher tendency to develop depression amongst workers.
Depression does have a twin brother, and that one would be stress. So I would really think that any occupation that's higher level in stress would also have with it a higher incidence of depression.
Studies have shown 1 out of 20 employees experience depression, and left undetected can lead to less productivity, according to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Symptoms can include the inability to concentrate, an increased amount of sick days, or an unusual increase in errors made at work.
One of the things about workplace depression is people do tend to try and mask it because they don't want bad performance reviews, and also work is it's how we live and how we gain social status. So that's the last place that it'll crack on us.
For this week's Retrospect, I'm Abby St. John.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Edibles have hit cannabis stores here in Lloydminster, and in less than 2 weeks, they've been flying off the shelves. The public's response has been overall very positive, while also making sure to stay safe when eating them. With the constant supply and demand of edibles, people seem to be happy with the variety of choices from cannabis stores such as Lab One, which will soon populate their shelves with lozenges, soft chews, mints, and other edibles like chocolates from one of their biggest suppliers, Foray.
We are the flagship store, and our goal is to supply customers with everything, no matter who they are, what they're looking for. We are definitely hoping to get every single thing that any consumer could want or like.
Although they're flying off the shelves, Lab One are trying to restock as much as they can, trying to get new things on their shelves every week. And every item has to be approved by Health Canada as a precaution, since there's a cap of how much THC is allowed in anything cannabis related. And this takes time before they can put anything on their shelves.
We want everybody, when they walk out of the store, we want them to be comfortable with what they're getting. And the biggest thing that we can do that is just by educating the customers. Hey, this is what you are taking. This is what you can expect. Don't drive. Don't do anything like this for this amount of time.
They hope to get a lot more supply off of these items on their shelves within the next few months. And now here are your stock market prices for today.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
Welcome back. Small planes are flying low over affected areas of Kenya to spray pesticides in an attempt to stop a locust outbreak from spreading to neighboring Uganda and Southern Sudan. Parts of Kenya are dealing with their worst outbreak of locust in 70 years, and Salat Tutan of Kenya's agriculture minister says the locust swarms can deplete farmland in a number of hours. The United Nations says $76 million is needed immediately to fight the locust across East Africa. Until drier weather in June, more rain across the region will bring fresh vegetation to fuel further waves of locust breeding. And now a look at your agriculture prices.
We're a part of less than 5% of Canadian auto body shops and Lloydminster's only locations with certified collision care recognition at City Centre Auto Body.
The head coach of the Lloydminster Bobcats, Nigel Dubé, spoke at the Rotary Club today about the importance of his team's involvement in the community and how he is building his Bobcats to become the team the city can be proud of. Coach Dubé mentioned that without the support of Lloydminster businesses and residents, his team wouldn't be here today. While trying to build team morale amongst his group of young players, Dubé also wanted to give back to the community.
The number side of it, whether we're 60-0 or 7-38, we're going to be very involved in the community, because without this community, we would literally not have a hockey team, and that's as true as it gets. We wouldn't be able to do it without the sponsors, volunteers, and the fans and the billets that we have. Junior hockey wouldn't exist in Lloydminster, so we want to live by our motto, live by our core values that we have, and truly be a border city built team.
Dubé mentioned that although his team hasn't been playing the greatest, he wanted to focus more on the personal skills of his athletes. The Bobcats visit kids in school, work with minor hockey teams, attend and work events in the community, build hampers for the less fortunate, and much more. This past weekend, high school basketball players took part in tough competition for the Hugh Morrell basketball tournament.
Made a difference, and he would have loved that.
This year marked the 30th annual Hugh Morrell tournament. Hosted by Lloyd Comp, they pay homage to Morrell, who was formerly a big part of Lloydminster basketball.
Well, it means a lot. I mean, my dad did a lot of things here to get the basketball going right from the very start. And to have the basketball community honor him that way, and Lloyd Comp in particular to name the tournament after him for 30 years, it means a lot to our family.
Ken added his dad loved intense games. This year, there was no shortage of intensity. The men's bracket saw two Edmonton-based teams earn their way to the finals. After battling through all four quarters, it was Lillian Osborne High School who would emerge victorious in the final minutes of the game.
Honestly, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but you just got to focus on first defense, and then if you get the chance, play some offense. But yeah, just give it your all, and then if you can really say like you left the game and gave it your all, like you have nothing to worry about.
Lillian Osborne made it to the finals last year, but didn't win, making the championship that much sweeter.
The difference between last year and this year was A, winning and losing, but B, the biggest difference isn't skill or athleticism, it's our chemistry. It's amazing this year. Like, people want to go out there and play for each other. It's really something nice to see.
Lillian Osborne also made the finals in the women's bracket, but unfortunately for them, a hot Camrose was fire from beyond the arc. The team was led by Kia Eason, who had 21 points from downtown.
The girls have an open look where we want them to take the shot and, read what the defense is giving us. Fortunately, we hit some and a couple banks in the game, too, that went our way.
3 of the 4 Lloydminster teams got out in the quarterfinals. Evan Kenny, Primetime Local Sports. Now we'll throw it over to our Abby St. John, who's got the weather.
Thanks, Evan. Taking a look at our satellite radar, there's been some signs of a mix of snow and rain outside of Edmonton and in the Vegreville area, making its way more towards east here in Lloydminster. However, there isn't huge chances of snowfall just yet. There is about a 30% chance that we could see some flurries this evening, and then no real bigger chance of snow till around Wednesday. Down in North Battleford, they'll also have a 30% chance of snowfall as well this evening, but nothing else too extreme to report. Taking a look at current temperatures, as we're having some freezing difficulties. Oh, there we go. Minus 17 here in Lloydminster, as well as in Maidstone and Pearson. Minus 16 in Macklin. Minus 15 in North Battleford. Minus 19 in St. Walburg. Minus 20 in Meadow Lake. Minus 18 in Green Lake. And minus 22 up in Isla Cross. On the Alberta side, minus 17 in Marwayne and in Bonnyville. Minus 16 in Cold Lake, Vegreville, and Wainwright. Minus 15 in Provost and Lac La Biche. Minus 14 in Vermilion, and minus 11 out in Edmonton. Tomorrow here in Lloydminster will be minus 8 as the daytime high, as well as out in Marwayne and Cold Lake. Minus 7 in Wainwright, Vermilion, St. Paul, and Bonnyville. Minus 6 in Provost and Vegreville. Minus 3 out in Edmonton, and minus 5 up in Lac La Biche. On the Saskatchewan side, minus 9 in Isla Cross, minus 7 in Green Lake and Pearson, minus 8 in Meadow Lake, Maidstone, and North Battleford, minus 5 in Macklin, and minus 10 in St. Walburg. Overnight across the region, fairly clear skies in Meadow Lake, Bonnyville, Provost, Murnum, Wainwright, Unity, and Pearson. Heavier cloud coverage in Isla Cross, and a little bit of cloud coverage in Paradise Hill. Minus 22 in Meadow Lake, Pearson, and Unity. Minus 24 in Isla Cross. Minus 21 in Bonnyville. Minus 23 in Paradise Hill. Minus 17 in Provost. Minus 20 in Murnum. And minus 18 in Wainwright for your overnight temperatures. Your school day forecast for tomorrow at 8 a.m. It'll be minus 16. Fairly clear and sunny skies. And then by the time recess rolls around, it'll be a little bit more cloudy with the temperature at minus 14. And then at lunchtime, a lot more cloud coverage with the temperature at minus 10. And then by the time school is out, it'll be around minus 9 with a little less cloud coverage from lunch. And then there'll be a low of minus 19 for tomorrow. On Wednesday, about a 55% chance of snow with a high of minus 4 and a low of minus 10. On Thursday, fairly cloudy day with a high of minus 5 and a low of minus 10 as well. On Friday, it'll be a mix of sun and cloud with a high of minus 3 and a low of minus 7. On Saturday, the same mix of sun and cloud with a high of minus 7 and a low of minus 12. On Sunday, to finish your weekend, it'll be a mix of sun and cloud with a high of minus 8 and a low of minus 14. And then back on Monday, it should be a fairly sunny, clear day with a high of minus 2 and a low of minus 14. That is a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more news in the question of the day coming up after the break.
Well, this Sunday Super Bowl has made everyone crazy, and the halftime has made people talk a lot about it online. Well, J-Lo and Shakira performed the halftime show on the Super Bowl on Sunday, and now are receiving backlash for being, quote, inappropriate for kids. So we asked the question, what are your thoughts? I'm looking at this and thinking, is this even a question that we should be talking about? But a lot of people are asking, and I'm thinking, she's 50, J-Lo's 50. Shakira's 43. They look fly. They're dancing and having a good time and really representing women, I think, in a good way. Don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think this is one of the best halftime performances that I've ever watched.
Yeah.
It was lively. It was full of music, full of dancing, full of what J-Lo and Shakira are very known for. And it's amazing because they're the first Latin duo to perform at the halftime show for the Super Bowl. They're in Miami. It's a perfect place to do that. And they really just showcased what they're known for. And I think they did a phenomenal job.
Definitely. And I think we have to be very careful in our society to what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. These are performers. This is what they do. And if you don't want your child to watch it, obviously, know that they're going to be performing, and there's going to be a little bit of a sexiness about Latina dancing, Latina music, and all of that beautiful stuff that you get to see. And I think you have to tell your daughter or your son, whoever, hey, you're not going to be watching the halftime. You can watch the game.
Yeah.
They could have done that. Or maybe, they're wanting Super Bowl to have some kind of censorship to say, hey, this might be inappropriate, but you can't say that either.
Yeah.
You're insulting the performers. I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah, a lot of our comments said the exact same thing. Wasn't inappropriate, it was phenomenal, all that. And there was one comment that kind of stood out to me. It was kind of a picture, but last year Adam Levine with Maroon 5 performed, and he was completely shirtless the entire time, and people were like, oh, he looked so good. He rocked it. Like, he looked
that was standard.
So sexy. And then now people are now turning around and saying J-Lo and Shakira, who didn't show any body parts other than their legs and their arms, and they're being chastised as inappropriate because they were dancing the way, you know, they've been dancing their entire career.
You know, I have to say, can we stop doing that to women who are performing and going up there and doing this? Let's support each other and say it's amazing things that they're doing. That's besides the point. Now to pets. Thanks for sending your pets for a chance to win a gift card from the Pet Pad.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
In studio today, joining me is Josh Ryan, here to talk about some of the local sports that have happened this past weekend in the border city. And kicking it off, we'll throw it to the Lloyd Comp High School basketball tournament, the Hugh Morrell basketball tournament there, which saw you know, some good competition throughout the 2 days there.
It certainly did. Not necessarily the results that the local teams were looking for. Obviously, Lloyd Comp women winning, and they go on to the second round after beating their crosstown rival in Holy Rosary. All other, as a result, Lloydminster-based teams not advancing. So there's still plenty of great basketball to be played. Obviously, it's one of the biggest events of the year for basically both high schools in terms of the basketball going-ons. Maybe the standout of the tournament, though, was from the women's winner in Camrose.
Yeah, for sure. Camrose, they saw a team with a ton of three-point shooters. One girl, Kia Eason, hitting 7 throughout that game. So 21 points alone in just three-pointers. She helped carry her team to a 5-point win late in the fourth quarter. That was Camrose High School over Lillian Osborne High School out of Edmonton. And also Lillian Osborne had a good showing there as their men's team won the championship, beating Strathcona Christian Academy out of Sherwood Park, SCA. And SCA was actually the team that took Holy Rosary out of the tournament. So they made it all the way there, and that was another one, hard-fought game all the way down to the last minute of that one.
Absolutely. And again, that's a really strong set of teams. So even though you can see the Lloyd Comp and the Holy Rosary teams not having a lot of success necessarily in terms of winning, they are playing very high competition, and that stuff does bode well for when their zone and regional qualifiers come up.
For sure, for sure. It just preps you for that next level. Another couple teams that saw some good competition this weekend were the Lakeland Rustlers, different court teams. And we'll kick it off with basketball, which I guess the women's team saw, you know, quite a few high notes, and the men were a little bit of ups and downs there, Josh.
Ups and downs is an understatement, unfortunately. This team has been a team of momentum throughout the last couple of years. They tend to go on long runs and give up long runs, unfortunately. It's exciting when they go on the long runs to come from behind. When they lose after holding a 25-point lead like they did on Saturday against the division's worst team, or second worst team, I should say, that is a tough pill to swallow. And as a result of losing in overtime after being up by 25 points, they're going to have some work ahead of them if they want to make playoffs.
For sure. They're in a little bit of a standings battle there with Nate, who they play in one of their last series of the season. How important is that one, Josh, to try and, you know, potentially sweep, but get at least one win out of that series specifically?
If you want to do the math alone, you have to at minimum win one game. If you look at it realistically between the remaining teams they play, they basically have to sweep that weekend because they need to have the tiebreaker against that team. And they've lost a game to Grand Prairie that Nate has not. Nate has already played Grand Prairie 4 times and won all 4 games. So that's going to be a tough one to overcome for the men for sure.
And in this weekend as well, the women's team kind of dominated, sweeping their series there. And, you know, from breaking it down, it was a lot of the bigs playing, you know, down, getting the ball in the paint and some dirty points there.
Yeah. I mean, dirty might be a strong word to use, but Bilge Topologlu and Brianne Hergot definitely dominated all weekend long. Grand Prairie, the weakest team in the division, doesn't really have a girl over 6 feet who can contend with either of them, and they're two of the best bigs in the conference, particularly Topologlu offensively. So a pretty easy weekend in some respects. They were basically, the focus became at that point working on certain plays within their system in terms of passing the ball here, passing the ball there, not necessarily just taking easy baskets, and they still won by a minimum. I think 28 points was the win on Saturday. So now they head off to France. They have a couple of games there, which will be a fun weekend for them, I'm sure, before they come back, where they will also take on the Nayduks.
There'll be a lot of great experience, getting that international play and just being able to see how, different places play and having to adapt to different play styles is huge, especially, when you're looking to make a big run going into the playoffs. Another team who's hoping to get a run into the playoffs is the men's volleyball team, but they had a pretty major setback this weekend.
So they certainly did. So team captain Matt Peck goes down with an ankle injury. He's at least out for 2 weeks. They'll reevaluate him basically in a week, but it's not looking good, even though they are in a good position in the standings.
Yeah, that's a tough one for the Rustlers team there. Hopefully somebody can take over the spot that Peck is leaving in that lineup.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
In studio once again with Josh Ryan, this time to talk about some pro topics over the weekend. And I know everybody's going to be talking about the Super Bowl. We'll get to that in a second. First off, we'll kick it off with the Battle of Alberta, the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. In one of the best showdowns, one of the best rivalries, for me at least, in recent memory here, Josh.
I think people are just happy to have the Battle of Alberta back. We kind of have joked and, kind of talked hopefully about the battle coming back, but it really hasn't been relevant since at least, the mid-2000s. And even then, I don't think it was fully alive. And that was back when both teams had made the playoffs, obviously 2006, a very memorable year for the Oilers. When you have to really almost go back to the 90s. Now you have two teams that are both at least in playoff contention at minimum, maybe Stanley Cup championship contention, and they hate each other. None of that stuff at the All-Star game about having fun and passing to each other and scoring goals and hugging it out at the end, that's all fake. Clearly these two teams do not like each other whatsoever. After the shootout win for the Flames, where David Riddick obviously enjoyed his win a little bit more than some goaltenders do, that didn't play well with the Oilers, and they came back with a vengeance. The Flames did not come out with the energy they needed and could not match the Oilers' speed or burst until they started fighting as the game went on. But yeah, a good old goalie battle with Cam Talbot losing one to Mike Smith, and this is one that I think hockey fans will definitely remember for a while. You can't pay enough money to have these two teams play in the playoffs this spring.
For sure, just I guess kicking it back a ways to the spark, to Chuck and Cassian little feud there with each other calling one another out, and Chuck even saying, stay off the tracks if you don't want to get hit kind of thing. And I think that just from there, it almost a snowball effect. When you got Nugent Hopkins and Monahan fighting the game before, that things are just going to keep on escalating there. And like you said, the Talbot-Smith fight there, that was one for the ages. And man, not only can Mike Smith play the puck, he can also throw absolute bombs. He connected on quite a few there. So as a fan of the game, that was electric to watch there.
Yeah, we keep talking about player safety in hockey, and yet if the vast majority of people who watch the game still love seeing hockey fights happen. And I dare you to find me someone who doesn't like to see a goalie fight happen. So now we can't wait again until these two teams play. And again, fingers crossed about them being in the postseason.
For sure. It was an interesting one, and everybody likes to get wins there. Another player who got a win in maybe a little bit of a different sport, you could say, is Novak Djokovic got his 17th major win and his 8th Australian Open tennis win here, Josh.
Yeah, it's a huge win for him, obviously, because he's only 3 away from Roger Federer. Djokovic has essentially dominated the Aussie Open. He's 8-0 in semis and finals. And despite not playing very well against Dominic Thiem, he still got the win. We'll see if he can contain that or carry that momentum over rather to the French Open, where Rafa Nadal is always going to be a tough out.
Well, and then finally, one team that as well got a win that I guess everybody's been talking about, and it has to be on most people's minds, is the Kansas City Chiefs. But now, here's our Abby St. John with more in the last minute of play.
Thanks, guys. And just like that, the Kansas City Chiefs raised the Lombardi Trophy for the first time in 50 years. The first half ended in a tie for only the 4th time in Super Bowl history. The 49ers took over the third by adding 10 to the board and leaving the Chiefs scoreless in the third. In the quarter, Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. However, the Chiefs' third quarter upset didn't hold them back as they went on to score 3 touchdowns and win the game in a 31-20 comeback. Despite throwing multiple interceptions, Patrick Mahomes was named Super Bowl MVP, making him the 3rd youngest player to receive that title. This also makes him the youngest player to receive both MVP, which he received last season, and Super Bowl MVP. Before the big game, the NFL Honors was held Saturday, where Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson won MVP. San Francisco 49ers defensive end Nick Bosa walked away with 2 awards, Pepsi's Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill received Comeback Player of the Year, and Jacksonville Jaguars defensive end Calais Campbell won the Honorable Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year award for his work with empowering and teaching the youth in Jacksonville through the CRC Foundation him and his family started in 2009. This has been your last minute of the play. Taking a look at your 7-day forecast, a high of -8 for tomorrow with a mix of sun and cloud. And then on Wednesday, there's a 55% chance of snow with a high of -4, high of -5 on Thursday, -3 on Friday, -7 on Saturday, -8 on Sunday, and -2 back on Monday to wrap up your 7-day forecast.
It does look good and cold, but let me heat this up for you. J-Lo.
Yes.
Shakira.
Oh, they were
Stunning.
phenomenal. It will go down in history as one of the greatest.
I think so too, yeah.
And, you know, so many people. I was a little bit hesitant. I was like, oh, I have my expectations up too high.
Yeah.
But honestly, they did not disappoint at all. They did what they do best.
Amazing stuff. And her
performed.
daughter came on.
Yes.
J-Lo's little
And
daughter
was
came on
so-
with such confidence.
She's so talented.
Yeah, she's going to be another J-Lo.
Yeah.
And that is it for the show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.